When I was young, they taught us about how the cults would recruit. Um, the two that come to mind for me were the Krishnas and the Moonies. But one that shows how extreme things get with the brainwashing would be the Jonestown cult. It didn't really matter what religion they followed. What they did was they approached somebody who was alone or vulnerable or upset or needy and bring them into the community with warmth and smiles and kind words and compliments and focused attention, so that that person felt like someone finally cared about them. And then they would be fed a diet of snack foods that had almost no nutritional content and were pretty much just sugar. And you got to understand that starch is a form of sugar, sugar is a form of starch. Starch is just compressed sugar, just chemically compressed. That's all it is. It breaks down and your body uses it like sugar. So your potatoes and your potato chips and your wheat flours, they all qualify as sugar, and this is what they were feeding these kids. Just sugar and sugar and sugar. And so while they were feeding you sugar and artificial love, they were also feeding you the philosophies that they wanted you to adopt. And anywhere from 10 to 14 days was about how much it took before you were pretty much part of the group, happy to go along with the group. Whether you agreed with them or not was no longer really all that important to you, and you had learned to say the things and to do the things, and it looked like a pretty good scene to you. And whether or not you agreed with the philosophies, you by now agreed with the lifestyle and the approach to life. You were agreeing with the diet, and you were agreeing with the way new recruits were being treated. So you were now good enough part of the cult. You were also agreeing to go to work for the cult, which was what the leader of the cult wanted. Slaves. You guys were being fed cheap. Now, let's fast forward to my time in hospital in the year 2025. I was there for a physical problem. I was there because I was excessively constipated. Now, the proper recipe for constipation is really simple. Pump in the water and add some laxatives. It's gonna happen. And I was at a point where I couldn't take laxatives or water anymore for throwing up from the pain, because I was having cramps caused by an over-excess of exhaustion the day before the whole episode had started, and the nausea had started so early on. My entire system had shut down. I needed to be hydrated and medicated intravenously. A little painkiller wouldn't hurt too. And anyways, I'd been told I don't know how many times that if this had happened to me that I should immediately call 911. Not wait 3 days, but call right away. And I waited 3 days because I've been through this hospital process before in another province and was trained there to understand that it doesn't matter what's wrong. I'd better stay the heck out. Just stay away from the medical system. You have no rights here. You have a provincial health. I don't know what the heck it was that they were designating me as, but I was now welcome to medical services. So I come out here, and I still not really quite getting it, that it's not necessarily personal, nor am I understanding that as a homeless person, it's definitely not personal. It's just permanent. I accessed medical resources. Not only did they not hydrate me properly or give me any kind of laxatives, nor did they acknowledge that on my own my system started to move within 24 hours of admission and having some water and nutrients in my body, but they did put me on a heavy sugar drip in that IV. They did constantly pester and hound me with yet another person staring in my eyes and listening to me talk and triggering me emotionally and acting like they're going to give me the damned moon while doing nothing. By the second or third day, they'd come up with a way to torture me by pumping my stomach, and how exactly that helps hydrate me is beyond me. I was ready to start drinking water and get stuff flowing, and they were still like, no, 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 the doctor said, and I was being compliant. But for some reason, just when I was going to start not being compliant because they were crazy, they stick a tube down my face, and I did not get used to the pain. I remember the nurse coming in the middle of the night when I rang for the pain that the evening nurse told me I should ring for. She told me, when this wears out, we've got another one ready and waiting for you because I understand it'll probably still hurt. So if it does, ring this bell. And she puts it at the side of the bed. And I wake up in agonizing pain and I double click that bell. In comes the woman. I tell her what it is. She puts her hands on her hips, leans into me and says, I don't think you're scheduled for any painkillers. You're just going to have to tough it out. Well, I can check you, and I told her what I was told. Well, I can check your chart, but you're not getting painkillers. You're just going to have to get through the night. And she walked out. So, I went back into silent stare mode. Autistic meltdown, silent stare. I heard her walk in and look at me. But the only thing I could do was try to be as still as possible to reduce the pain. Just if I just held very, very still, maybe I would get through this. She came back and said, oh, geez, okay, I guess you can have the painkiller. So I guess she was impressed with my grace under pressure. I have no idea what these sadists want from you. But it seems to be always a test of your grace. And if you're gracious enough, they'll begrudgingly give you what you were owed in the first place. And so this sadist community had me in there waiting for King Sadist to decide whether or not I was good meat. And they put me through so many departments and so many workers and so many people, it's just ridiculous, and I never had any peace. Just like they do at the cults. And I don't doubt, because they feed that same diet, because when they did start giving me food after I yanked that stupid tube out, it was still just sugar. And I have no question in my mind that when you get yourself up there on the psych ward, you're still living on sugar. But now these guys can add some kind of weird, crazy, experimental cocktail of drugs to your brain. And in the last 15 or 20 years, no matter what I've complained about, the only solution has been some weird experimental chemical that seems to have, and they always use seems to have effect when they do the spec sheets on these drugs. Seems to do this, seems to do that. We're not really sure why or how. But try it out and see what it does. I'm sorry, would you put that kind of fuel in your car? Well, then why would I do that to my brain? I've already tried a pharmacopoeia of interesting things in my youth. Why do I want to do it now when my brain is so flippin' delicate already? So, that was kind of the conversation I had with the psychiatrist, which is why they finally released me. But not until I had missed an extremely important appointment. One that I had waited months for. One that was really important to me. So anyway, the upshot is, you can't brainwash an autistic person. But homeless people are definitely not considered patients. Exactly the label they're thinking of us in their mind, because they're not going to say it out loud or write it down. Only another medical professional could tell you what the actual opinion is of people who are unhoused. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter how you speak. It doesn't matter what walk of life you've had in the past. It doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. You're labeled and you're marked, and you're better off being sick. And find some other way. Go to a Chinese herbalist. Do something else. Anything else. But don't go to the hospital.